Commander Replay Card Spotlight, Mind Slash. Hello everyone, welcome to Commander Replay Card Spotlight, where we look at cards that are unknown or underplayed that could help you out in your next Commander match. Today we're looking at Mind Slash, which is a black enchantment from Nemesis. Mind Slash says, pay 1 and 2 black, it's an enchantment, and while it's on the battlefield, you may pay 1 black, sacrifice a creature, target opponent reveals his or her hand, you choose a card from it, that player discards that card, and you may only activate this ability anytime you could cast a sorcery. So I've recently started playing with this card and I've been having very good success with it. It's very good against opponents that are trying to control the board, combo off, or dirtle in some other way. By itself, Mind Slash doesn't do all that much. Where it becomes very powerful is any deck that can support a reanimation engine or produces a lot of tokens, because you will be needing many bodies to reuse its effect. So why play Mind Slash over one-shot sorcery discards, like Mind Twist, Hymn to Turak, Thoughtseize, or Distress? What makes Mind Slash so great is the ability to reuse it and to choose different targets each time. With single shot discard, there's a good chance that you may pick the wrong opponent in a multiplayer game. You might take a look at their hand off something like Thoughtseize and decide that none of the cards in their hand really impact you all that much, and of course you can make them discard any legal targets. However, Mind Slash offers you the ability to then target another opponent to make sure that that opponent isn't going to blow you out of the water with either a big play or removal spell. And if that opponent doesn't have anything, you can activate it again to use it on another opponent. Mind Slash does allow you to discard lands. If you drop it down early in the game, and you notice your opponent has been a little bit locked on lands, you can make them discard any remaining lands from their hand, and put them significantly behind in the game, probably most relevant in a 1 vs 1 scenario. It could also matter if they're trying to ramp into something big. Mind Slash also forces the opponent to reveal their hand, which some cards like Thoughtseize do, but the multi-discard spells like Mind Twist and Hymn to Turak do not require the opponent to reveal their hand. This can be useful. It's sort of a wild card though of how it will actually impact the game state, but if one opponent sees something in the other opponent's hand that they don't like, it may cause them to hold up a removal spell and actually use it on that opponent because they still don't know what's in your hand. Which could benefit you if they see something like an Ugin that they really don't want coming into play, or some other large finishing type spell. But on that note, if you've activated Mind Slash and you see an Ugin in your opponent's hand, you should probably be picking Ugin as the discard. Like I said, to make Mind Slash really impactful, you do need to have a lot of bodies that you can sacrifice to it to reuse its effect. Let's take a look at some of the best ways to do this. First up, literally any card that produces tokens. Avenger of Zendikar is a very big finisher, produces a ton of tokens. Even something like a Siege Gang Commander would be fine, but really anything that makes multiple bodies can provide ammo for Mind Slash. The other way to really use Mind Slash is within some sort of recursion engine, which will typically show up in green-black or green-black-X type of decks. Probably one of the most effective creatures to use with Mind Slash is Bloodghast, followed directly by Reassembling Skeleton and Nether Trader. Both of these cards give you ways to pull the creatures directly from the graveyard into play, and then you can sacrifice them again with Mind Slash and make your opponents discard any cards that you don't want them to have. It's not a stretch to say that Mind Slash will synergize with almost all of the green-black cards ever printed. One such example, Golgari Germination. If you have both Golgari Germination and Mind Slash in play with your Bloodghast, you sacrifice your Bloodghast, get a token from the sacrifice, make your opponent discard, and then you can use the token to fire off Mind Slash again. So if we take a look at EDHREC.com, it shows a listing of all the commander decks that are currently playing Mind Slash, and right now we're seeing 828 decks. After the experience that I've had playing Mind Slash over the past couple weeks, I can't believe how few decks it's showing up in on EDHREC. We see it shows up in Nath of the Guiltleaf decks most often at 159 decks, but if we look at the total number of Nath decks, well, 351, so about 50%. However, if we look at Marin of the Clan Neltoth, Mind Slash shows up in 92 Marin decks, out of a whopping 1,437 total Marin decks. So this card is very underutilized for how strong it is, especially in the Marin deck. But it does work extremely well in any of these other decks here, Prosh, Skyraider of the Cur, is another extremely popular commander deck. Mind Slash only shows up in 25 copies of Prosh out of a total 1,043. So this is just mind-blowing to me, because Prosh by himself creates all the tokens you need to fuel Mind Slash. If I were playing a Prosh deck, this would be an auto-include for me. Another popular commander is Sidisi, Brood Tyrant, with 999 decks listed on EDH Rec, and you'll see that only 8 of them actually use Mind Slash. And as we continue to poke around EDH Rec, we see a list of other cards that also interact super favorably with Mind Slash. Dictate of Erebos and Grave Pack are absolutely awesome. This gives you the ability to discard and make your opponent sacrifice creatures, so they probably won't have cards in hand or creatures in play. Any deck that runs Attrition can support Mind Slash. If you're running Attrition, you should be running Mind Slash, and vice versa. However, there might be some matchup dependencies here depending on whether you're expecting your opponents to play creatures or to play more spell-based decks. Another card that interacts super well is Skull Clamp. Now, unfortunately, in most scenarios, you won't be able to put Skull Clamp on your Bloodghast or your Reassembling Skeleton and then sack it to Mind Slash, because the Skull Clamp will kill it based on the -1. However, if you find yourself with some other creatures in play, you can equip those on the Skull Clamp and then sacrifice those to the Mind Slash, and you will be able to get the card draw and make your opponent discard. Another super strong interaction. This will keep your opponent's hands empty and your hand full. So let's take a look at some gameplay of Mind Slash in action. This is a multiplayer game I played a little while back. I'm playing my Saskia deck. We are facing off against Shattergang Brothers, King Mesar the Gold Cursed, and Keranos God of Storms. So it's currently my turn 4. We accelerated a land off of Myriad Landscape, and on this turn we're going to play Buried Alive to search out our Bloodghast and Reassembling Skeleton, and this is going to give us the ammo for Mind Slash. So I play a land and have Bloodghast enter back into the battlefield based on the landfall ability. Unfortunately, the opponent has the Honden of Infinite Rage, which is just going to shoot down our Bloodghast, so we'll have to play another land next turn to get him back. So back on our turn, we play another land. Bloodghast comes back into the battlefield, and we're going to fire out Mind Slash. We will pay the 1, and we're going to get busy using this Mind Slash. So we sack the Bloodghast and target our Keranos opponent, and I make them discard the Splinter Twin because that has the potential to just kill us on the spot without anyone ever having a chance to respond to it. So then we pass the turn. So we play another land, get our Bloodghast back. I play Sword of Feast and Famine, and I decide to sacrifice the Bloodghast again and use the Mind Slash. Again, I go with the Keranos opponent because they had a lot of powerful cards in their hand. So this time, we discard the Metallurgic Summonings because that's another card that can beat us that we can't really interact super favorably with. We bring our Reassembling Skeleton from the graveyard back into play, but it's not going to do a whole lot because it's just going to get shot down by the Honden. So back to our turn. We take 1 off Underworld Dreams. Drop another land, get back our Bloodghast. I decide to actually play Saskia right here, just so we have some kind of pressure on the board. And I decide to choose the Keranos opponent, just because they seem to have a lot of powerful stuff. So we equip up the sword, sack our Bloodghast to Mind Slash, this time targeting the Shattergang Brothers opponent. We reveal their hand, and I make them discard the Acidic Slime because that can easily destroy her Mind Slash, and that's the plan we're kind of going on right now, so we definitely want to hang on to that. So we go to combat, and we hit the Shattergang Brothers opponent, which will also send the Saskia trigger to the Keranos opponent, and we untap our lands off of the sword trigger. Shattergang Brothers discards Flash Fires to the Sword of Feast and Famine. So I replay Assembling Skeleton, use the Mind Slash again, targeting the King Mesar opponent, and I pull the Icy Manipulator out of his hand just because that's another card that I don't think we'll be able to interact super well with. So we recast the Reassembling Skeleton again, and fire off Mind Slash again, this time at the Shattergang Brothers opponent. This time I take Active Treason. Seems like something that could do a lot of damage to us with the Sword and Feast and Famine on our Saskia. And then we ship the turn. So Shattergang opponent plays Tribute to the Wind, forces us to sacrifice an artifact or an enchantment. I sacrifice the Sword of Feast and Famine since it wasn't doing as much for us as this Mind Slash has been doing. I really just want to keep going on this Mind Slash plan. So back to our turn. Vampiric Tutor. And we Vampiric Tutor for a Skull Clamp, which will make our combo even stronger. So we drop down a land, get back our Bloodghast, play the Skull Clamp, pay 1 for the Rhystic Study, and the Keranos opponent Cryptic commands our Skull Clamp, and they're going to counter it and bounce Saskia. Because of this, I target them down with Mind Slash out of spite, and I'm just going to empty their hand as much as I can. So we fire off Mind Slash again, this time taking the Factor Fiction, so they won't be able to draw, recast our Assembling Skeleton, fire it off again at the Keranos opponent, and the Keranos opponent scoops after taking heavy punishment off Mind Slash. F you! So back to our turn, we get a Viridian Corruptor as our draw for the turn. Not really on the Infect plan, I just wanted another creature that can destroy artifacts. We decide to blow up the Panharmonicon, because that card can get out of control real quick. Play a land, get back our Bloodghast, sack the Bloodghast, using Mind Slash at the King Mesar opponent. And this time we pull the Dark Steel Plate, another card that's super hard to get rid of and makes it really difficult to kill our opponent's creatures. So we recast Reassembling Skeleton, fire off Mind Slash again, this time at the Shatter Gang opponent, and I make them discard Creeping Renaissance. There's definitely a few more targets in his hand though that I want to make him discard. I didn't love seeing that Hellkite Tyrant. And now the Shatter Gang opponent scoops. Double kill! So it's just me and the King Mesar opponent left. And we recast Reassembling Skeleton. So opponent exiles Reassembling Skeleton with the King Mesar ability, and that's not great. We recast Saskia, choosing the only opponent left. We decide to blow up their Cabal coffers because that can generate way too much mana. Untaps King Mesar, and exiles Saskia. So we fire off Mind Slash again, 2 cards in hand for the King Mesar opponent, and we'll get rid of the Enslave. So opponent plays Bojuka Bog, and that's going to exile our graveyard, and that's pretty much going to put an end to the fun that we've been having with Bloodghast and Reassembling Skeleton. So we have a huge exile pile. So we use Mind Slash again, pull a Shieldred out of our opponent's hand, and make him discard that. And since I know this Fauna Shaman isn't going to stick around because of King Mesar, we're going to fire off Mind Slash again. We pull the Grey Merchant, another card that can kill us real fast. So from this point in the game, we were never really able to get back in it. The opponent had too much going with all of their untapped shenanigans and King Mesar, so we really couldn't get any creatures on the board. And we were playing a creature-based deck. There wasn't a lot of ways that we could stop our opponent from running through their combo. However, we did see Mind Slash take down 2 opponents in this game, simply by making them discard all of their big threats. So what did we learn by looking at that game? We learned that Mind Slash can be really powerful when it's comboed with any sort of engine such as Bloodghast, or if you have a lot of tokens available, to use Mind Slash's ability repeatedly. We were able to eliminate 2 opponents, basically only playing Mind Slash and Bloodghast. We really didn't have a lot of other pressure going on the board. Unfortunately, we weren't able to take down the last opponent because they already had too much set up on board that we couldn't really answer. But that game does go to show how strong Mind Slash can be, especially if you're facing down opponents that aren't looking to be super aggressive. So again, if you're playing any of these commanders listed here, but also any commander deck that runs Bloodghast and Reassembling Skeleton, or plays a lot of tokens with black, you can find a home for Mind Slash. And it'll go a long way to help you from losing to your opponent's big stuff that you can't really answer. So anyone playing any of the commanders here, you should try out using Mind Slash in your next match, and let me know how it goes. Let me know if your experience has been as good as mine. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, I hope you enjoyed learning about Mind Slash, and feel free to like, comment, or subscribe. Thank you for watching.